All right, good morning. Sorry, I'm trying to get my life together here. I've had to suffer like secondhand embarrassment the last week or so because I I've come to the conclusion that it doesn't even matter. Like many of these men who happen to look like me are just simply unwell. Now, this video will primarily address the men. I know you're listening out there. You know, when I go and have my commentary that is probably less than popular about Oprah, um, Beyonce, Chloe Bailey, or whatever, everybody's here for it, right? Yeah, get them checks. But I have something for the men. And I just want to make myself clear. You're not going to like it, all right? So you might as well just click out of this video if you can't stand a little criticism. I had a conversation last week. It basically went something along the lines of like, hey, what's up, blah, blah, blah. Guess who I ran into? Now, I was talking to a man who happened to look like me. He's older, a lot older than me. I'm 47. So, probably, I'm guessing 60. I don't know. And, it was one of those, hey, guess what? Blah, blah, blah. I didn't know she was just, how you just say, hey, guess what I ran into? And you just give me a quick recap. And he was like, oh, he was just like having this meltdown. And I'm like, why are you being like that? I mean, it's not even that big of a deal. So, we're just joking. I was like, oh, maybe y'all got to think for each other. Just joking. But anyway, the point is, he starts going in hard on another black woman. He's like, and ain't nobody gonna want her, and this, that, and the other. And just look at her finger, just look at her hand, and all this other stuff. And I was like, dude, like, I need you to calm down. Why are you going so hard on this woman? And he proceeded to tear her down unnecessarily. Okay. Now, I feel fairly confident that she doesn't, in her spare time, think about tearing this man down. She's got a whole life going. But he was tearing her down. He's like, you can tell nobody wants her. Look at her finger and this, that, and the other. And she'll never be this, that, and the other. And I was like, what is up with all this vitriol? I said, well, if you look at my left hand, you don't see me wearing my ring. Well, that's because I can't fit my rings now. Ever since COVID, I was enjoying the snacks and the food. And so now, I'm like a size 10. I used to be a 6. I used to be a 4. Like a 10 now, So I'm like, okay, we got to get some stuff together. On a good day, it could be a 12. So, with that being said, I don't wear my rings. And so I'll let you guys run with that. But I'm pretty secure of myself. Like, I'm good. Trust me, it's not stopping people from wanting to holler. So anyway, I said, you can't go by that. A lot of people don't wear their rings these days. And he was like, ain't nobody gonna want her and this, that, and the other. Now, I can go into every possible thing he said that's neither here nor there. I was just really shocked at how much he wanted to tear down another woman. And so when he started going into his yip yapping, all from me saying, hey, guess who I ran into the other day? He started having manosphere talking points. Now, I think about a couple months prior, I mentioned I had ran into the same gentleman, and he was spewing similar type things. So I called him out. I said, you just sound like a dude who's talking those manosphere talking points, and many of them are dum-dums. Because if that's what you're talking about, you don't have anything to talk about. Because, like, me saying I ran into someone should not cause you to have an emotional meltdown. He went in there spewing all those manosphere talking points and could not defend himself. He couldn't defend what he was saying. because I could refute so many things. And I usually don't like to waste my cycles on those kinds of conversations because they're fruitless, they don't go anywhere. And when you're dealing with people who have that dumb dumb mentality, you gotta let them stay there. Like, you can't save everybody. But what made me mad at myself was I briefly engaged. And I remember making the comment, like I said, look, black men are struggling so much that people don't even want to invest in them right now because they're showing that they don't care about themselves. They would rather take themselves out. They blame black women for everything, blah, 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 blah. And I went to this whole thing. I said, why do you think you have, when he came out at JP Morgan Chase, I don't know if it was 20 million or 20, I can't remember what the number. They were talking about investing in black women entrepreneurs or something along those lines. He was like, yeah, yeah, this is what he said. I was trying to make the connection. Yeah, yeah, exactly. They're investing in black women, and that's why Lizzo's fat. And I was trying to make the connection. He's like, because all black women are fat. And I was like, number one, let's be clear. Black women do need to work on their health, to include myself. I said, but you do realize black men are not healthy, right? I said, and I'm going to talk about the little thing. I said, number one, if you have a group of people who are starving, and let's say the number is 80% or 70%, and then their counterparts are at 70%, it's still bad. I was like, do you realize how stupid you sound? Like, you're not even embarrassed at the things you're saying. I said, number two, me talking about wealthy white men investing in black women and you bringing up Lizzo is a non sequitur. They're not even related. Those aren't even related conversations. It is a true non sequitur. It wasn't even like a straw man. It was non sequitur. I mean, like, it's like talking about hot dogs and then you start talking about tutus. Make it make sense. And I was just sitting there and I was just kind of like, he is clearly online all the time. Well, actually, I create content now, so does that mean I'm online all the time? But he's like talking those talking points and he couldn't defend anything. I said, you are the example of someone that I have to give you your talking points. I have to give you your opinion because you can't defend anything. You don't have any rational arguments. And he's like, yeah, but we control marriage. I'm like, exactly. So when you say things like, all of these women aren't married, I'm like, you're controlling marriage. He's like, yes, because they're fat. I'm like, that's not why. That is not why. And if you're a dumb enough to believe that, then I pity you. And you're too old to be having these thoughts. But this is my favorite one. And I want black men to listen in closely, okay? I want you to listen in really closely. Because after this ignorant conversation, I actually ran into somebody I knew in the bathroom. And this was at work. And this person hee-hawed so much. This gentleman made the comment about um, black women are not going to get married and that he basically was like they don't have any options. And let me make this clear because I'm not my intent is not to be disrespectful to my husband. Okay, my husband is a black man, but in my fitter finer younger years I had just as many if not more men who did not look like me trying to holler. And even as I got married, and even this year, I mean, I had to shut it down. I'm like, yeah, you're literally overstepping your boundaries. What I'm saying is, and those men do not look like me. I want to be clear. So he was like, it's not true. I'm like, it's literally true. It's literally true. Like, and I don't look at that as like the standard or anything like that. But if you're talking about having options, that said black women have been notoriously known for not dating outside of their race. Okay. I could tell you stories, but that's neither here nor there because that's not what it's about. It's not about my dating history. What I will say is this. There's so many men who think that black women don't have options. Now, I remember I ran into someone into the bathroom, and I happened to mention, I said, I am mad at myself for wasting brain cycles that I can never get back. I went to the ignorant conversation, and this black woman, who I assume might be a little older than me, she started laughing. And she said, they really believe that black women don't have options. And they're like, she said, you have more people who don't look like her trying to say something to her. She was like, these men are so dumb. I said, I know. I said, what they don't realize is, as much as they think that other people don't want to holler, you know what they do? They definitely try to holler. But their way of doing it is different than a black guy. Now, we're living in a new age. And you got these men who are thinking that black women don't have options. And so while these men are out there peddling their sperm to any person that is willing to catch and receive that, black women are tightening up. They have stopped dealing with a lot of people, and they're like, you know what? If you can't be respectful, and if you can't meet my needs, I'll go elsewhere. We know in America, across the population, that the birth rate has fallen below 2. The birth rate has fallen below 2, and you can't blame. And so it's like a lot of women in general are like, we're not having these babies. But these men continue to say, oh, they're having all of these babies, but it's a talking point because they won't even go look at the data. Needless to say, the guy, as he's talking, he's tearing down this other black woman in this conversation. And all I said was, oh, hey, guess who I ran into? And he had a meltdown. I was cracking up because I was like, holy cow, like this guy is unhinged. Black men don't even realize how obsessed they are about black women because they get into these weird, like, podcasts, and that's all they talk about. That's all they talk about. All I said was, hey, guess who I ran into? And he had a meltdown. Then he started talking about, like, ain't nobody gonna want you black women, and you're gonna be 60 years old and you're gonna be single. I'm like, you're literally 60 years old and you're single. And then he got quiet as if like it was newsflash. He was like, but, 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 but I've got resources. And I was like, Cat, like, you think your resources are resources? Don't get me wrong, you make a good coin, but like it's a pretty coin. But I was just kind of like, you do realize you keep talking like you can go get a younger person. And I'm like, do you not realize you're nothing more than a lick? You are a lollipop. You are a sucker. And I said, apparently there's data out there that shows that black men are dying alone. They are dying alone. They're like, oh, they've always been dying alone. They're not dying alone, but they've always been dying alone. I was like, well, which one is it? Because you're confusing me. I'm confused. They're not dying alone. They've always been dying alone. To this day, it's only been a handful of days. Well, okay, I gotta be honest, I didn't think about it this weekend, but at the time when we were having a conversation, I was like, I don't know what that means. Like, well, what do you say? He was just like trying to find every talking point and spit it out. And I said, look, I don't want to have this kind of conversation. It's not even fruitful, right? I said, ultimately, I ran into so-and-so, okay, and she was really pleasant, and he was really like, she ain't my type. And I'm like, well, she wasn't asking for your hand in marriage. She was just saying, hey, did you know I, blah, blah, blah. It was just kind of like, hey, did you see so-and-so? That's literally all that it was. And he was just having his meltdown. Sorry, I got to pay attention to this road here. So nevertheless, I just wanted to say, I don't know what to do. Black men, y'all need to save yourselves. You guys are going overseas, fine, go overseas. What I do know is there's a level of delusion going on. The more he started talking, I was just kind of like, you're 60 years old. I said, let me tell you something. My husband doesn't know any of this crap that goes on because he doesn't even he doesn't even have the cycles for it. He thinks a lot of these people are stupid. Like if they're having these kind of conversations, he's like, they don't have anything else going on in their lives. They have nothing going on in their lives if that's what you're talking about. My husband, let me tell you something. My husband is like the perfect shady person. His conversations are more about like stock and stuff. And if you try to impress him, he's like, you literally didn't even see the run up before that's what, like, he's like already mentally checked out. He's like, I'm not having a conversation with these fools. But the kind of things that this guy was talking about, my husband is more concerned about, like, okay, so where do we want to live when we retire? We got to make sure our children are educated. He could care less about looking at the ring on somebody or lack thereof on somebody's finger because he knows well, I'm the only one for him. But yeah, I was just like, this guy was so stuff. There's so many things that this guy said in the conversation, and it's not even worth getting into because it was so dumb. And the secondhand embarrassment I had for him, I was just like, you're too old to be having these conversations. I said, you're too old. I was like, aren't you embarrassed? No, 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 because y'all need to be told. I'm like, who needs to be told? I said, the fact of the matter is, you're the one that's walking around single. But I can get somebody. I'm like, you think black women can't get people? I said, first of all, most of them don't even want to be bothered anymore. And actually, the truth be told, a lot of white women are way too. They're like, I don't want to be bothered. I know non-white women who've started saying stuff like that. They got divorced. They're like, oh no, never again. A little bit older. When you listen to some of these women talk, they're like, oh, absolutely not. They are about protecting their peace. This is going beyond black women. The only difference is a lot of them started off married. Some of them, even there's black people who were married and then they got divorced and they're like, I am never getting married again. They made it clear. They were like, look, these dudes can go get married. They can find somebody, but don't come over here thinking I'm getting married. And when I told him, I said, you know, a lot of people don't even want to get married anymore. He was like, yeah, because they can't. I'm like, no, they literally don't. They want separate residences. I've listened to some of these older women talk. They're like, oh, absolutely not. But anyway, he's like, well, I can go get me a young honey. I said, you sound silly if you're 60 years old talking about, I'm going to go get me a young honey. I'm like, what does she want with you? I was like, because if you're getting a young lady, trust me, you're a lick. And I told him, I said, you know how easy it is to, like, get men to look at you? I'm like, it's not hard. Men, it's not hard. Mess around and lose 20, 30 pounds. Those women would be, do you think these women are checking for somebody? I said, let me tell you something. If you really think you're doing something, I was like, these women are just waiting for you to die. They just want you to die. Like, I'm like, you're not what they're looking for. He's like, and we can get somebody whose womb hasn't been. I'm like, you're disgusting. Is that how you see women, looking at them as somebody that you can just get a womb that doesn't have each? I was like, you're gross. You're too old to be talking like that. I was so embarrassed for him. It was like true secondhand embarrassment. But I was like, just let's be clear. Why would someone want to go get a 60-year-old man? Why would a young girl? Like you're only wanted for one thing. You talk about women so much, but you're basically positioning yourself to be wanted for one thing. Nobody wants that. Anyway, I just want to say these conversations are so stupid. All because I said, hey, guess who I ran into? Oh, so, blah, blah, blah. And he had a meltdown. And that lets me know that y'all are unwell. You guys are unwell. Are you guys okay? Black men, are you okay? You're talking about these stupid talking points. Let me tell you something. If you want to lead, then you should be talking about what you need to do to fix the community. This is the only community I know that does this. That does this in an open forum. But yes, I'm like, are you guys okay? Are you okay? All right. Well, look, let me get off of this because that's all I've got. Let me know what your thoughts are. But y'all need to go get the help you need. Go get some help. Get the help you need because it's just giving secondhand embarrassment. I'm just calling a thing a thing. There's so much I want to say, but I try not to make these too heavy. But y'all need to find some other things to talk about, other things to listen to. All right.